We're good. We're on the air. Welcome everyone to the Town of Wells Planning Board meeting for Monday, February 24th. The first item for discussion this evening will be to review the minutes of January 27th. Did anyone have any questions, additions, or deletions to page 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. The minutes for February 10th are not ready at this point in time, so we will discuss that at a later date. The next item this evening will be public hearings. How we conduct the public hearings is we allow the applicant, which happens to be the Town of Wells first, to explain what they propose to do. And after the applicant is done with the proposal, the audience can question them through the board. So the first item this evening will be an ordinance to amend chapter 201-10. And Shannon, would you like to tell us what that is, please?
Yes, the ordinance to amend chapter 201, section 10 is for streets and sidewalks, and it's to revise the general provisions for the street requirements and turnarounds. Copy of the ordinance language is in your packets and was posted online.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments of that? Any members of the board?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Public hearing is now closed. The next one is the Town of Wells as an ordinance to amend chapter 145 land use of the Town of Wells to add definition and to add hotel motel seasonal worker housing performance standards.
Yes, this is an addition to increase the availability of housing for hotel employees, to allow the occupation of hotel units by on-site employees of the hotel. And those were again in your packet and posted online.
Are there any questions, comments for anyone in the public? Any members of the board?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. The public hearing is now closed. The next one is the Town of Wells, an ordinance to amend chapter 145 land use of the Town of Wells to revise article for Town of Wells regulations to correct a typographical error.
Yes, this is a ordinance to correct, it's chapter 145, section 35, general regulations, item L. There's a incorrect reference to the floodplain management ordinance chapter. So it's just a correction to that chapter number.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for anyone in the audience or the board?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. The next ordinance is an ordinance to amend chapter 202 subdivision of land of the Town of Wells to review final plan for major subdivision submission requirements and general standards requirements for stormwater design and analysis.
Yes, the revisions are proposed to update stormwater manual references within chapter 202, 9, and 12. Specify stormwater analysis methods, 50-year storm event analysis and design, and require gravity system foundation drains for subdivision lots.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for any members of the public? The board?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. All these public hearings are now closed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the planning board forward these 4 ordinance changes to the select board.
Second.
There is a second. Okay, all those in favor? That is unanimous. We'll move those forward to the select board, please. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the Seabreeze Landing subdivision. And I believe the applicant is here. for the applicants. Welcome.
Good evening, my name is Jeff Oliva, I'm with Civil Consultants. With me here tonight is Jenna Green, representing the developers for the project. We're here for the final plan public hearing regarding this proposed private development that is going to be off of Route 1 that creates 17 units, 8 duplex units and 1 single-family residence. Again, it's a private roadway. There will be a new crossing over Blacksmith Brook to get into the property. The design utilizes low-impact stormwater designs with underground filters for some detention and wooded buffers for treatment. And that's pretty much it. We've been in front of the board a couple times. We've addressed the comments. We've received some more comments back at the end of the week that we're working on addressing those, and we'll meet with the town staff to finalize.
Thank you. There any, as a matter of record, there is one letter that we received back in June of '24 regarding this project. That is the only comment that we have on file at this point. Are there any questions or comments from anyone in the public? Members of the board?
Move to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. The public hearing is now closed and we will workshop this later in the evening as well. Thank you. And next on the agenda is Breeze Landing subdivision. We won't ask you to introduce yourselves again.
So, as I mentioned earlier, we received comments and markups back from Mike and Shannon at the end of the last week. We started working on them. I think we got them on the 21st, Friday. Started looking at those on Friday afternoon and had staff start working on them today to make some updates, plan changes. A lot of it is updating notes to be consistent with what's in your package, going through some of the details to make sure that we're consistent with the plans as we move through the project with respect to where utilities cross each other and how that's called out. There were some questions with respect to cost estimate that we're working on. And basically, I think we're right there. The plan changes are pretty minor. I think at the last time we had the road name was accepted by the town, and that's been indicated on the plans. Now I think we're just in the final stretch of getting the information together. We've submitted our condo documents to the town, waiting for comments back on that. I owe the town easement and information on the fishing access that's along the parking spot to get that into the town to show that. And then when we were here last, we had found out that the project is in the sidewalk overlay area. And we had talked about that sidewalk along that edge, and we wanna, I guess, talk with that more to the board tonight. We're knowing that there's potentially a big grant coming out for Route 1 corridor upgrades, that we would like to be able to put money in that fund in lieu of building the sidewalk now. In particular because we've have some current concerns about what DOT is going to do with the existing Blacksmith Brook crossing under Route 1 and how they may want that sidewalk to be. And also realizing that how long it's taking us to just get our DEP stormwater permit. Worrying that another permit like that would delay approvals and delay us starting this project.
I think at the last meeting, I was the one that questioned about doing it now. And I guess I don't have any problem waiting. My just concern with waiting was that the cost may increase. I mean, maybe a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could address that to your satisfaction and the board's satisfaction?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity for us to talk about what I think what that potential inflation factor would be on that, because I believe that the ordinance says 7 years. I think everybody's hoping that this corridor study gets done sooner than that. And is working on that, so I think we can look at and work with Mike and Shannon about coming up with a value that fits that size, that requirement.
Yeah, so I don't think the board would have a problem with that.
I do, because we keep pushing off these sidewalks and they never get put in. And I think that at this particular point, we need to start making all developments put their sidewalks in. Because I'm really concerned with the state grant coming through, especially with the situation that the state's in right now, looking at a $500,000 shortfall.
It's more than that.
$500 million shortfall and the potential of losing $270 million in the schools. The budget has just been up for the state, you know, taxing everything in the world, and if we don't start putting these sidewalks in, we're never gonna get them in. I think every project that comes in front of us from here on in needs to have them put the sidewalks in.
Right, and I agree, and that was my position at the last meeting, but I think,
I do too, and I agree with you, but again, I agree with them that there's a bridge involved and and where you're gonna put the sidewalk, and if the state is going to widen the roadway and put a bigger culvert and a bigger bridge in there, they can't put a sidewalk in there without a wider.
I don't think the state's
Bridge.
gonna widen the road, they're gonna leave the road the way it is, they're just gonna.
They're gonna have to
They're
cantilever it
gonna
out
change the lane.
somehow,
Nope, they're just gonna change the lanes, they're not gonna take anybody's property.
but there's no way they can put a sidewalk in there now.
On their property they can.
That culvert's
Not
gonna have
over
to
the
be
brook.
done.
I would have them bring it to the brook at least, and then let the state handle it from the brook.
well,
I mean, we have another project just up the road a little bit more that's gonna be coming in, and they definitely have to put it in, cause they're gonna be older people. And we should have been having them put it in all of them, I mean, we'd probably have them going down the road considerably at this point.
I think there's just too many factors that are unknown, and if the you know, if they're willing to cover the costs of when, you know, and I mean, they can work with Shannon and Mike to come up with language that I think would be acceptable to us, that, you know, within a certain period of time when the DEP or when the corridor study comes out, then they have to be installed. I think that would be.
Because how can you put a sidewalk to the edge of the brook? And then have the brook? And then put a sidewalk on the other side of the brook?
There's already a culvert there, so people can walk onto the sidewalk from the side of the road. I mean, I'm one vote, that's it, I'm just saying.
On my
that
side,
this
I'd
is-
rather pick a year that we're gonna hold it, instead of 7 years on your side, I'd rather go out to 15. Figure out worst case scenario,
I don't think we can do that, though, I think by state law, if we don't get it put in by a certain date, he gets the money back.
It's written in the ordinance,
Yeah.
It's, seven years on that, yeah.
And I don't see this corridor getting done that quick. I mean, we've been looking at other things that they've been wanting to do for all these years.
I just can't see how you can put a sidewalk where there is no place to put it.
There's enough room there for him to put it on the property the way it belongs, he just doesn't wanna take the chance of going over the brook. I mean, technically, it should be put in.
There's an option in the ordinance that gives us either way to go.
Yep,
So technically, you can be either way.
yep. I just think that
I would lean more towards putting the money into the fund for now, because you really don't know what's involved once the DEP gets down there and the state looks at that area, so. And the culvert, that's gonna be probably redone, because they're putting in the wider, stronger culverts all along the road already, so. To me, you're gonna put a sidewalk in, it's gonna get ripped up.
I guess on my side,
I don't think they have the culverts in there in the study.
on my side of it, if we get a letter, they hold the ordinance for the 7 years. They write a letter that they're gonna cover it for another 7 years, so even if we return your money, you're gonna give it back to the town anyways. I'd be okay with something like that as well, we can also work it that way, where we're outside the ordinance of them guaranteeing it for 14 years instead of 7 years.
Yeah, but the
I'd feel better
developer's
with
gonna
that.
be gone after it's sold.
At that point, it'd be on the homeowners association. Or the condos association.
I think we can come up with something and work with Mike and Shannon on that, cause I think if we look at what also is that money that goes into the sidewalk fund is also used for the town match for that federal grant too. Yeah, I think this is is discussing with Mike and Shannon, I think it's a $40 million federal grant that is out there for this, where the town needs to match the 10% for that whole corridor of Route 1.
I ask Shannon's opinion.
Well, the ordinance allows payment in lieu of construction, and I think to what Brian was speaking of, we are concerned if someone was to build the sidewalk and it get ripped up and redone, so,
Would that be your recommendation?
yeah, I think with the unknown nature, I think the funding is appropriate to consider.
Do you think you could work it out with?
Definitely,
Right.
yes, yep.
I think that would work. We don't need to vote on that at this point in time, do we? This is just something that
No,
we need to work
I think
with
we
them
would
on.
just work on getting the notation on the plan and present that notation at a future meeting.
Are there any other issues that you need to discuss with me tonight, or you?
Sure, so I'll just go to the memo that was prepared, and Jeff spoke to a lot of the items. The town planner engineer had prepared his design memo, stormwater memo. We are waiting on the condominium documentation to be reviewed by the town attorney. And then the cost estimate memo, so there were nothing really significant, I think just items that needed clarification or details to be added. That sounds like Civil Consultants is working towards. One item is a landscaping plan that the planning board had previously requested. And since we've had the public hearing and that's now been closed, an item is to consider what screening requirements are for the residential abutters. So I don't know if it's appropriate to wait until a landscaping plan is provided. You guys render your decision on that.
I guess what I'd like to talk about it and get some board input on that. I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but we had talked about buffering down on the southeastern portion of the property and that area along the brook on that side. We know that out parcel has been developed out there and that parcel's been cleared pretty much for their development. If we look at where we have that kind of hatched area, that is in the middle of the plan, just kind of below those 3 units, that is a wooded buffer that will stay wooded because that's part of our stormwater treatment area. So that area will not be cut, it will have buffer signs placed in that section. We know that some of the ordinance talks about having vegetation for those residential units that are down on the to where the mouse pointer is on that side. We were kind of hoping that if the board wants additional plantings, that those plantings would be placed on the development side where we're not gonna have to go across into the brook, into the existing stream protection areas around that and do the plantings on that side of the buffer, on the inside of the development side of the buffer, as opposed to the outside across the brook and kind of coming in through that opposite side to do that. So I guess looking for the board's kind of agreement that if needed, we can show some evergreen spruce or something like that along that edge to help supplement a little bit of that buffer on that edge to provide a little bit more protection from to the abutting residential units. We'd rather not do a fence in there. I'd rather have some additional evergreens around that edge and along the edge of the existing wooded buffer.
I prefer to see the buffer natural along the hatched lines. So that way you have the buffer, but when you get to the buffer, you got the evergreens.
Yep.
Then you have the grass, so that way the no-cut buffer, it kind of keeps people out of it.
Yeah, and
It restricts them on where the property line is, that's why I'd rather see it there.
Yeah, so right where the mount, up along, that's where I was thinking along that kind of curved area. That heavy dark line is really our disturbance line.
I'd like to see it on the disturbance line then if.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking along that edge, because that hatched area that is down below is not gonna be disturbed anyways. We have a little notch out, you see the kind of notch on the bottom edge, look to the left, right there, and what that is that's, we have a pipe outlet that goes to a level spreader. And what that level spreader then does is spread the flow out and gets it and pushes it through that wooded buffer before it goes into the brook to treat that stormwater for us. So what we wanna do, obviously, we wanna keep that, the ground cover stays the same, there's no like raking, that duff layer needs to stay in there. We've got vegetation on that side. We're feeling that if we needed extra plantings, it would be along that dotted line perimeter. And we'd rather have it do it on that side than have equipment trying to go on the other side of the brook or working on that side to do that.
I'd rather see it on your
Elevation
side.
higher? That elevation on that dotted line's higher, isn't it?
It is higher,
So,
yes.
so it would do more to screen the properties.
I think so too, yep.
Okay,
And you wouldn't be disturbing
it
the
wouldn't
brook,
disturb
which is-
anything, that's fine.
Yeah, that's why I'd
I think
rather,
that's-
Rather have it on that.
I'd rather see if
Line
we're
of
doing
disturbance.
this in the future, I'd rather see it all on that.
Right.
Just a question, Jeff?
Yes.
That looks like it's heavily shaded there, is that area, I mean, I like the idea of planting the evergreens, but are they gonna last as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix of tree growth in there now. And I think it's also important to note for a big chunk of that's already undisturbed tree growth on that edge that goes out towards that inner red line now. We just have some areas that are, because I guess the way the ordinance talks about that buffering and tree growth. I feel that the existing tree growth and this kind of scrub that's along the fence line, along that bottom property line, is good buffer cover. When walked it with the state biologist, he wanted us to keep it for habitat. And that's why we're not really showing, we limit our disturbance in that side. I think if anything, we have maybe a little bit of plantings along that edge. I don't think there's a need for a lot, but if we do, we can show some along that side.
So you're
I
gonna
would
put
say
that,
more the merrier. So that way you're kind of screening yourself all in general, so if you start where you make the first 90 where the mouse pointer is, come all the way around to the back corner. I know that's a lot of landscaping, but whatever you can get in there, the more the merrier.
Yeah, I think there's room for us to kind of fill just to the left of where that level spreader is, down on, keep coming down, right around that area, we can have some plantings along that side, and then edge along where the wooded buffer is. Yep. And again, we've got, if you go to one of the development plans, we also have a stormwater detention area, cause we had worked through, that area. That's a good plan that shows that. You can see where we've got our infiltration basins in that area, and we had worked with Fish and Wildlife and DEP about where the placement of those are, since they kind of replace the buildings that are in there now, that are gone, that now we're creating stormwater treatment. And the fact that we're getting rid of some of the invasives that are in some of that disturbed area around those sections as well. So I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of use that buffers around where the edge of that dark line is.
makes sense.
I think that would work.
I can, work with Mike and Shannon, and we can come up with a plan that way.
So like a 6 foot tall evergreen tree, single row or staggered row?
Greens, pines,
Staggered rows are
They
always
should be
staggered.
staggered road.
Yeah, they'll be staggered and we'll fit them in that, yeah. But I don't want it to look, I mean, I'm gonna show it on the plan more
don't
kind of
wanna-
natural, I don't want it to look like a
Right, you don't wanna put arborvitae's in there
No,
because the deer enjoy
deer,
that.
oh yes, they do, yeah. But I think it's also important to remember, there's still a lot of natural vegetation out there that creates a buffer.
I think if we get that plan back, then you guys will have that visual in front of you and you can make that decision at a future meeting. We had prepared a compliance review and a draft findings, which is also in your packet, so we identified just some recommended notes, clarification, open space, the percentage there. It's actually 66.97% for the net area. Had recommended a plan note that allows considerations for unit slot coverage. I don't know if that's something you guys wanna try to utilize.
Yep.
But we often see, decks get a little bit bigger, or patios, or sheds, or fire pits and things, and those are all lot coverage, so some type of note that allows a certain small square footage per unit. Because this is a multifamily development, once you start changing and adding lot coverage, it triggers an amendment,
Triggers,
so.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's good to
I
see
think
a plan note.
the plan note, that makes sense, yeah, it gives a little bit of options on there, it doesn't let people go crazy, but doesn't make every little small change come back to the board.
Consideration for the board to vote on today would be that, finding the driveways that are proposed are suitable onto the private road, which is Maggie Way. So that's up for decision for tonight, if the board would like to make that.
So move.
Second,
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Another determination would be to find the existing monumentation shown on the plan as suitable, and that's something that you can vote on as well.
What are you using for monumentation?
At the property corners. Which plan would be to show, probably the separate sheet.
Yeah, I think either first or first sheet there, yep.
So at all the property boundary points, there's existing monumentation identified on this plan, all of which meets the ordinance requirements.
Along Route 1, what do we have, rods or monuments?
Trying to look at the plan, I think there's a monument to the north side and there is a rod on the south side.
I'd like to see a monument on the south side out in the road. The rods inside are fine, but out on the road really makes a big difference.
You good with that?
I'll make that in the form of a motion.
That other lot that was cut off,
Yeah.
is there a monument in there?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, right where the mouse pointer is, there was a rod that was set there when that lot was split off. Yeah, that's they're all existing on that side. Yeah, I mean, I understand.
It just makes it easier down the road for the town to find locations and stuff. So,
It does and it doesn't. We could argue about it, but if that's what the board wants, then we'll have to,
yeah, it's only
Change
one,
that to-
we're only looking to change one, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Just out on the main road.
You good with that?
yes.
So move.
Was there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
The next item in the memo, we were just looking for the final capacity letter. I could only find the draft version that Nick had provided.
Yeah, I thought, all I got from Nick was an email saying everything was good.
Yeah,
So I'll ask him for a final letter,
yeah,
cause I forwarded that email over to
we
you.
did get
Yep.
the design email and his
Yep.
approval of that, the capacity letter. It's different and we just didn't have a final version of
Okay.
that, so.
Alright,
And just some clarification on that sewer manhole number 4.
Yep.
Another determination for the board to consider tonight, since this is a multifamily development, the road standards are to be reviewed and considered as suitable. So we have a 24-foot wide paved road with 3-foot wide gravel shoulders, so 30-foot wide gravel base. And the paved width around the cul-de-sac is 24 feet with an outside radius of 65 feet. So those are suitable to the board.
Do they meet the ordinance is 65 feet, right, in the
Yeah,
outside?
radius,
Yes.
correct,
So
yeah.
that's fine.
So move.
second,
Second, all those in favor? That is unanimous.
And that's all I had, so just a recommendation that the workshop be continued. Could allow the applicant up to 60 days.
Move to continue the workshop up to 60 days.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
thank you.
Go ahead and get together with Shannon,
Yep.
or Mike, and
Get it done.
We'll see you
See you
soon.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next item on the agenda this evening is Weber Ridge 2 subdivision amendment.
Christensen, I own South Coast Construction. Subdivision amendment applications in for relocation of a septic system for lot 3.
Shannon,
It was
did,
also to address changes to lot 2 that were identified. So it's lot 3 and 2 for septic system and well locations. We've received the septic system design from Eric for both lots, and then a test pit on lot 2 was required because the septic system that was installed in lot 2 just didn't have a limiting factor of 24 inches or more. So a suitable test pit was provided. All the primary and reserve systems meet the 100-foot well exclusion zone that's required. So the plans that are in your packets have been updated. We have notes on the plan that it reflects that it's for lots 2 and 3. Another addition was that it was recommended that the no cut buffer signage continue from lot 3 into 2, and that's because the reserve system on lot 2 is right up against that no cut buffer. So those are kind of summarizing the plan updates and the information that we've received to date. And they added that note for lot 3 that the well be encased and sealed to bedrock due to that concern about its proximity to the road.
and then you've got on here note 8 added to the plan, which requires the well adjacent to Weber Ridge Lane.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
these-
lot
yeah.
Yep, okay.
Move to find the application complete,
Second?
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
find the application compliant.
Is there a second? All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Move to sign the plans and finding the facts at the end of the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. Sign at the end of the meeting, sir.
That was easy enough.
Appreciate it.
You're
Good
welcome.
night.
Have a good night. The next item on the agenda is Wells Beach Environmental and Recycling Site Plan. Good evening. How are you?
So hello everybody, I'm Wyatt Page from Adder Engineering, I'm sitting in for Lou today, and Pete Gartway, oh yeah, owner.
How are you, Pete?
Hey, Pete. Welcome.
Yeah, good ways.
So first, this is 2 applications, it's both a subdivision amendment to the Berwick Road Business Park subdivision as well as a site plan application for Wells Beach Environmental.
Mhm.
The first item I'd have you guys look at would be the subdivision application. So the revised plan is up on your screen. The board had previously looked at this back in August. Sidewalks and public hearings were waived. So we're at the stage of considering the application compliant and looking and reviewing over the draft findings. Some decisions that the board could make are with regard to monumentation. The existing monumentation is identified on the plan, so that would be something for you to consider finding suitable.
I believe that was all subdivided and monumentation was placed when they did the original subdivision, so I think it should be okay.
Yeah, that's.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
And then the other item would be to find the proposed driveway locations suitable. So with lot 9 and 10 being merged, this plan shows pretty much exactly where the approved locations are.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
The third item would be for the planning board to consider a waiver to allow the signature blocks placement kind of centered at the bottom of the plan. It would be difficult to move that signature block to the lower left corner. As you can see the
I think it's fine.
So
scale and
move.
everything.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Move to find the application compliant.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Move to approve the signing of subdivision facts and decisions and subdivision plan.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Did you guys have a plan for the subdivision? I had emailed Lou, I'm sorry, I didn't.
About just the quick revisions to the plan.
Yeah, the plan we had received last week on Friday was good. So if you don't have the plan tonight for the board to sign, I would have to have them just come in and sign the plan.
Yeah, that was my understanding of the situation, yeah.
So I don't have the plan for the board to sign tonight, so you guys would have to pop
But
in, or I
we-
could present it at the
Yeah,
next
we
meeting.
voted on it, so as soon as we see it, we can sign it.
Everybody else sign it, yep.
Great, and so continuing on would be the Wells Beach Environmental Site Plan application. Plans are on your screen and in your packets. Again, the sidewalk had been waived, the public hearing had been waived back in August. Since the August review, the DEP Tier 1 wetland fill permit has been approved. The DEP stormwater permit was approved. And so the board would be looking to make decisions with regard to the landscape buffer, and some other things like parking or loading bay. Not sure if you had any other further updates as with regard to what's occurred since the last meeting in August, but
As far as what's changed on our end?
yeah, or just any further description on the approved permits or anything else that's
I don't have
happened.
anything more to offer on the
Okay.
permits, but I know there were a couple of small revisions that were requested in the notes, and I believe there was a culvert driveway hatch wanted to be shown for the construction entrance, a couple other stray things. We're working on those and we'll have them for you very shortly.
Has any changes been made to the fire pond?
None that I am aware of. I didn't have anything in my notes about it. I imagine nothing has changed.
I do
You're not
think
touching
the
the fire pond?
hydrant location itself.
You're not touching the fire pond?
The fire hydrant? I don't
No,
think
the
so,
fire
I'm just
pond.
staying the same.
The hydrant's location is proposed to
Yeah.
shift.
But the pond itself isn't being touched.
You're gonna leave the pond the way it is, right, Pete? Fire
Yes.
pond?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're reconfiguring the driveway. Right, but not the pond itself, that's as far as I was
Okay.
changing now.
Yeah, the existing gravel access road that comes in to utilize the pond, that will be vegetated over and instead will now use the new entrances that are proposed. So as you can see, one of the items for you guys to look at would be the 40-foot wide landscape buffer along Willie Hill Road. And the plan shows the plantings every 30 feet along the roadway there, with the exception of the entrances. So that would be up for the board to consider if it's suitable or not.
Meets the ordinance, right?
Meets our ordinances.
So I move that it's acceptable.
Is there a second? All those in favor? That is unanimous.
And with regard to the buffer, previously the board has allowed the septic system and wells to be located within the 40-foot buffer. So it would be to consider, again, to allow the wells and septics to be within the buffer.
Can't see why we couldn't. Is there
So
a motion?
move.
Second?
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
I am still waiting on just a formal written recommendation from the code enforcement office. I have one from a few years ago. I was just asking for it to be updated for this amendment. So that letter will be forthcoming. And it would be, once we receive that, the planning board could make the official determination on the proposed parking being suitable or not. Review comment would be for the striped parking adjacent to the new building that's proposed. The aisle width that's delineated on the plan is only 24 feet and it needs to be 26 feet in order to accommodate the two-way traffic. So I believe that's something
Yep, he's
will be
scribbling an
addressed.
updated one along as well, yes.
great. We have the proposed utility pole identified on the plan now, so it's pretty much perpendicular to the existing pole along Willie Hill Road, and then underground utilities will go to that new building. The security fence appears to be removed along the perimeter of the property, and it'll just have a gated entrance or gates at both entrances with Knox boxes.
Mhm.
We were provided a lot of good trip information. So and all those comments are incorporated into the review memo. So for traffic, I think all the questions we had were provided. It was estimated traffic generators at peak operation, 10 employees, 1 to 2 traffic trailers, 25 to 50 customers. Not located in a high crash area.
Shannon, did you want us to, where was it? To determine if the loading bay is not necessary?
Yes, that would be great.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
And then the final item would be for recycling facilities. If you recall, this approval had note 21 that was added to address the code requirement of 28G2, which was to address performance guarantees in an amount adequate to cover the total decommissioning costs for a recycling facility. And so previously, note 21 had been added, which states that prior to the conveyance of the property and after the establishment of the facility use, a phase 1 and a phase 2 environmental site assessment shall be completed for the property and provided to the town planning office. This had been previously found suitable and acceptable by the planning board, and so we're just looking for a similar determination to be considered today.
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor? That is unanimous as well.
Continue the workshop for up to 30 days, is that enough?
Do you need 30 or do you need 60? Go for 60, then you're gonna have to come back.
Alright,
Sure,
move to,
I would imagine we'll need it, but we
move to
can go
continue the
for it.
workshop up to 60 days.
Second.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. You can communicate with the Office of Planning and Development, and then we'll see you next time.
Sounds good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You as well.
I believe you already
Brian did a motion for that to be
made a
moved
motion
forward to select board, yes.
to send them to the select board. So is there any other business that we need to discuss this evening?
Item 2 would be for the ADUs and affordable housing ordinance changes, those are in your packet, so. We have the town attorney recommended changes to the sections of the ordinance for ADUs and affordable housing in order to comply with the state statute LD 2003. The planning board previously looked at these, and so the town attorney has just worked on those and enhanced them a bit more. Select board did conduct a workshop on these ordinance changes on February 18th and scheduled a joint public hearing with the planning board to be held on March 17th. We can look through the draft ordinances today. And if you have any comments or recommendations, we can try to incorporate those into the draft that you and the select board would potentially review at that joint public hearing.
And I noticed that they said that the units weren't considered dwelling units as far as parking.
Right, the town attorney did review that, and her comments essentially were LD 2003, an accessory dwelling unit may not be subject to an additional parking requirement beyond the parking requirements of a single family dwelling unit. So
Okay.
her interpretation of that could be that an ADU could also require parking spaces.
So beyond what's required now, so what is required now is 1 parking space per bedroom.
Correct.
So that means if they do put another 2-bedroom in there, they're gonna require 2 more parking spaces, is that the way it's worded?
That could be the interpretation, yes.
Well, I think we need to make it
We wanna make
plainer.
sure that is the interpretation.
We need to
Yeah,
make that
if
plainer.
that's what you guys wanna propose and write up?
Yeah, I propose that Mike look at it, make it plainer, that it just says that the requirements for it is, you know, one parking space per bedroom. Because that was the biggest fear that everybody has, you know, putting in ADUs and having absolutely no parking for them.
We changed the ordinance on that last time, right?
Yeah, we changed it in time, so that's, it was changed in November, and that was one of the reasons we did it. We just wanna make it clear that says one parking space per bedroom is required.
Sure, yeah, right now it just refers to calculating it for 145.39, so instead we could say exactly that, one per bedroom.
I thought it said that it wasn't considered a dwelling unit. And so, find it now, I buried it. Yeah, trying to find it. Of course, at the bottom.
I thought we wanted the dwelling units attached, by the way, also.
Yeah, this is detached, I thought it was supposed to be attached.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be attached as well, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, the town attorney, her opinion was that the LD 2003 did require, units to also be attached.
This sounds like all of them are gonna be detached, the way this is written. A
Okay.
structure which is a detached,
I think the town attorney's made a mistake there, because
I thought it,
the way I read the law, it says they have to be attached.
Yep, and under the ordinance where they said accessory dwelling, it says the accessory dwelling unit that complies with the requirements of 145-55A shall not be deemed a dwelling unit for the purpose of determining minimum lot size and maximum density or calculating minimum parking spaces pursuant to 145-39. That's not what we wanna do, we wanna make it required to meet our ordinance as one per bedroom. Either that or people are gonna be putting them in with no parking spaces, and what are you gonna do, park in the street? I mean, Wells is not a town where you can walk to everything.
so accessory living spaces shall not be used as accessory dwelling unit. Accessory living space, a structure which is a detached 1 or 2 story building accessory to a dwelling unit consisting of 1 or more rooms designed for entertainment and or sleeping with no kitchen facility. Where did that come from?
That was added a few years ago. We've had instances where people have wanted to convert garages or spaces for entertainment purposes, maybe put in a bar or a bunk room for their kids or something,
A bunk
so-
room, it says it shall not be used as an accessory dwelling unit. How can you put in a bunk room?
It's, so because it has no kitchen facility, it's not a dwelling.
But except you can have people sleeping there. So then it's not counted as a bedroom,
So,
accessory living space?
and it's calling it a bunk
Currently
room, so that
allowed
makes it seem like that there's more than.
for entertainment and or sleeping, but has no kitchen facilities, that's currently allowed.
That's what you see in many places down along the beach is
Well, the garage is being used
correct.
as bedrooms.
Bedrooms or entertainment centers or whatever.
Yeah, the movie room, they have a variety of.
And as long as there is no kitchen facility, it's an allowed use.
Yeah,
That's the
considered
common language.
accessory, yeah.
So they're adding accessory living spaces shall not be used.
Right, so we
As
don't want them
ADUs,
to
okay.
become ADUs.
Shannon, is it possible for us to have a meeting with the town attorney? Because right now we're going to Mike, who's going back to her, and then she's coming back, and it's just taken too long. Is it possible for us to have a session with her so we can ask her these questions?
She will be at the March 17th meeting, for sure. Mike and her did discuss the detached and attached question. Mike was pretty confident. He thought that they were gonna require that we could stick with just detached only. But her interpretation
But
was not.
that's a joint public hearing, right?
That's a public hearing, we can't,
Yes.
if we're gonna get it on the agenda for June, that has to be approved that night. That doesn't work.
So she really needs to come to our next meeting, because I don't see, I thought ADUs were supposed to be attached to the house, not a separate unit.
LD 2003 allows attached or detached.
What
The LD 2003 allows attached or
Allows.
detached.
doesn't mean you have to do it, right? It allows,
Her-
which means if we say they should be attached, we're allowing attached units.
Can you?
I can reach out, we can see if we can coordinate her to be able to come to the next meeting, which would be next week. Back to back.
We have back-to-back meetings.
Yep, week from tonight.
So is that the specific, to the detached, attached?
Right.
Also,
That's
the
a
parking
big one.
issue, the parking issue is a huge issue.
Because the language in a couple of cases there just contradicts itself, so.
Sure, yeah, we can reach out and see if we can coordinate that.
And I don't understand why it's not a dwelling unit, I mean, it's a dwelling unit, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we're not requiring them to have any more parking spaces than you would on a single family dwelling, one per bedroom. I do notice they cut it down to saying that they contain no more than 3 rooms.
I mean, it is considered a dwelling unit. If you read number 7, it is gonna be a dwelling unit per the MRSA.
Yeah,
401.
As far as
But
subdivision,
just how
yeah.
you calculate parking requirements, the wording in section A.
Yeah, but the parking requirements are just like a dwelling unit is the way I look at it, but we need to spell it out and say, look, you need 1 parking space per bedroom.
Yep.
We're not requiring them to have more, we're just requiring them to have the same.
Yeah, I think that can be reworded. Another section she wanted to point out was what she had added with the owner occupied definition and the timelines there. She was having owner occupied, the owner must physically occupy the dwelling unit for a defined amount of time. Recommendation was that be for 6 months, I think, in prior conversations.
6 months and 3 days.
Just enough
Let's
to,
change it to 6 months and 3 days.
That way they have to pay taxes here.
That makes them a resident of the state of Maine. Not come up here, stay here for 6 months and
Who's
then
gonna do a
rent.
rental for 3 days?
6
6
months and
months,
3 days.
6 months and 3 days, but who's gonna do the 3 days
The
pass?
owner must occupy it,
Okay.
not the rental, the owner. 6 months and 3 days makes them a legal resident, 183 days. And at that point, it's doing what they're doing, owner occupied. Not somebody that's investing and buying a house, staying up here for 6 months and then turning around and renting the whole place out for the next 6 months.
Well, they have to be, they have to live in one of the other units, right?
Yeah, I thought that it was, they had to live in one of the other units, year round, but I understand if somebody's a snowbird, that's fine. But the question is, can they rent both units out at that point? Because the whole idea of this is to make occupancy for year-round people, to give more housing, not to make it more beneficial to be in a seacoast community, and
Right.
I think that's what you're gonna see a lot of. Can we put in there somewhere that they can't be rented as an Airbnb?
Is that more the short-term rental, the concern with that?
Yes, that would be a question you'd wanna ask the attorney.
We need to ask the attorney as long as they cannot be rented as an Airbnb. Because, I mean, the whole idea of I can see all along the beach, these becoming short-term rentals. Nobody's gonna be able to keep an eye on them, and we need some teeth that if they do turn them into them, we have a way to go after them.
I thought we had put language in there, had to be.
We did, but this
least-
isn't ours at all. This is rewritten just about.
We said they had to be leased for at least 6 months at a time,
Yeah.
right?
Yep,
Yeah, number 9.
and that language doesn't exist anymore.
It says, no accessory dwelling unit can be leased or occupied by persons other than the owner occupant for a period of less than 6 consecutive months.
Okay, so that solves that. It can't be used for Airbnbs then. We have to lease it for 6 months minimum. Part of the problem is this printing is so small.
Yeah.
Just saying, I mean, it's,
Yeah, the track changes, very difficult to use, I apologize. It takes up practically half the sheet for the comment inserted on the side there, so.
Yeah.
Why did they change, I just like to know, why did they change to only 3 rooms? No more than 3 rooms.
I got no problem with that.
Well, what's considered 3 rooms? If I make a,
Open floor.
if I make an open floor plan
Yeah.
and 2 bedrooms, is that considered 3 rooms?
Exactly.
Well, we used to have a square footage.
No, they have a
Maximum.
square footage of a minimum of 190, which is a tiny home, or a maximum of 600.
Okay.
Which I don't have a problem with, but the question is, you know,
You still can't go over the 600 feet.
I just think, why don't you just give them the 600 square feet and, you know, whatever they put in there, they're gonna meet the code with. I mean, a minimum bedroom size is 70 square feet.
So the current language is no more than 3 rooms. That's what our current ordinance requires.
Which is just a matter of 1 big living room, kitchen and dining room and 2 bedrooms, which was okay. That's a good sized apartment.
600 square feet.
So,
So we wanna see if town council can be here at our next meeting?
Yes, I will make that inquiry tomorrow.
Is there any other discussion on that this evening?
I had one thing I wanted to bring up if we're done with everything else.
I believe we're under other business, right?
So I was approached by a member who's on the sewer commission. And we're talking about the new upgrades to the treatment plant, which are gonna begin, I guess, later on this year. And the upgrades are gonna take, I think they said 10 years to complete. They're bonded for payment for 20 years. But the bond that's being taken wipes out all other bonding capability for the treatment plant, at least this is what he's telling me. So this upgrade to the treatment plant does not increase the capacity by 1 ounce. So for 20 years, we're gonna be unable to borrow money to increase the size of the treatment plant if we follow this current bonding. So this is something that
Why would we do that?
I'm not sure. But this is something that we're gonna have to think about. And it's gonna come to some point in time when Nick's no longer gonna be able to issue letters that say, yeah, we have the capacity. If we're looking ahead 20 years, especially if you look at the current growth rate of the town in the past 10.
It just means they're gonna stop developing on this side of the turnpike.
Yeah.
Which is probably the best thing that could happen.
Well, there's other issues too to consider, because there are some areas in town that may wind up having to, and this is according to this board member, that may require the town to extend sewer, just because of soil conditions.
So why would the town have to extend sewer? It's a sewer.
Right, but
But if it's soil conditions for the people that are thinking of developing,
no, it's existing conditions.
then they're gonna have to, then the people with their systems are gonna have to dig them out and redo them.
Well, I guess it's more than that, but without getting into it too much further, this is just so.
But that should be the water and sewer that would have to take care of that, not the town.
Right, it'd be
It's a separate, I
the-
mean, it-
No, I understand it's totally separate, but when we're looking at future plans for, you know, this is just something that we're gonna have to.
Well, future plans are gonna have to get a letter, and when they can't get a letter, then the project is either gonna go to a septic system or it can't be built.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea of the whole thing. I mean, once we hit major capacity, which we all knew was gonna come.
Yeah.
You're not
No,
gonna be
that's
able to go any further.
the whole purpose of me making these comments is so that people know that
okay,
that we're gonna wind
No,
up
no.
coming to a point
yeah,
where.
well, we can't, yeah.
It'll actually stop the development on Route 1.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, sign finding and facts and plans.
Do we have plans to sign?
I do have a set of plans, yes.
And the other one you're going to email us when you have them, so that we can come in and sign them?
So there's
Yeah.
a motion
Yeah.
on the floor to sign
Second.
plans, adjourn. All those in favor? Unanimous. Good night, everyone.